What's up, y'all? This is Corban Ford, the Los Angeles Lakers Network, and I'm just here to give a few thoughts on what I think the Lakers are going to need this offseason. We all saw the first round matchup with the Wolves. We saw that went down. Not great, obviously. Um, from Lakers in 5 to trying to stay alive to here they are, gone in 5, right? And the Lakers coming this offseason with, some very big needs. I think the first one isn't really that big of a surprise, if a surprise at all. That's a big, don't want to be bold here, but they need a big. Since trading for Luka Doncic, trading away Anthony Davis, that was it, literally, he did not want to be a center, and yet he was the best center that they had, and really the only center. That made Jackson Hayes obviously the guy, and he was outmatched. I thought he, for what he is, did a good job. He should never have gotten, that type of role or the type of minutes that he at least started with. Obviously, as the series went on, his minutes are rightfully cut. But ultimately, the Lakers need someone that is going to be able to come in and be a rim protector on one end and a lob, a lob threat on the other end, vertical space wise, for Luka Doncic. Because at this point, that is who you are trying to work around. Now, with that being said, Jackson Hayes wasn't horrible. He had exercised his player option. That's why he was even back this past year on that 2-year, $4.6 million contract he signed back in 2023. And, from January 30th onwards, he played every game, had 6.8 points, just under 5 rebounds per game, just under a block per game on 72% shooting on what basically is close to a minimum contract that you're going to get without actually being a minimum. Now, is he going to come back for that more? I don't know. I think he at least earned a little bit of a uptick in pay. Since he has been with the Lakers for 2 years and hasn't changed teams, he will have the Lakers have early bird rights on him. So they can re-sign to a new contract starting at around the value of the mid-level exception, which I think is nice without actually having to use the mid-level to do it. So I feel like, there's more momentum for Jackson Hayes to get more money, but the Lakers is probably where you can get something of a good role. He's not going to be a starter. If he's a starter next year, the Lakers did not do their job. But if he's like, hey, I'm coming back, I had a much bigger role due to circumstances around me, but I'm a guy who can come in for, 8 to 10 to 12 minutes a game, try not to make dumb fouls and dumb screening errors, rebound the ball, finish around the basket, bring energy. Like, if he can come in for that, I think that'll be really, really solid. But that's the center spot is just a big issue, and he's part of that. Going outside of that, again, you had throughout the course of the year, LeBron James played the 5 at times, right? Rui Hachimura obviously was the 5. Maxi Kleber got some time in their closeout game for the season. Alex Len, God bless him, he played. Markieff Morris was there for a minute. Trey Jemison. It's not great. Lakers did not have a great front court. And all these guys I'm mentioning were really after, obviously, Anthony Davis went down. Rui Hachimura is just not a 5. Same with LeBron. Alex Len is just not a good 5. He's not a good basketball player. Markieff Morris, love the guy, but he's past his prime, his career. Like, he's on the way out. And Trey Jemison, maybe there's a role for him for sure. I think in like the G League or marginal minutes in the NBA, but I just don't think it's right now. And I don't think it's for this team, at least as it stands. So, we saw that their interior defense was horrible. They were 5th worst in the NBA in grabbing rebounds. And so, they had adjusted. They had ultimately saw that they need to make an upgrade. And when they traded for Mark Williams, that was their salve there. Now I did talk, I'm sure you, those who are listening have been watching Sean Davis on the Los Angeles Lakers Network, and I talked to them in the aftermath of that. I was not a big fan of that trade because of his injury history. I didn't think that Mark Williams would be available enough for the Lakers, and that we'd have a rim-rolling lob threat who could be good defensively, but he would barely play because of a variety of injuries. Well, he actually was remarkably healthy second half of the season once Lakers rescinded the trade due to his physical examination results. And so, I still don't feel that bad about it. Like, I even having seen what we saw, would Mark Williams have helped? Yes. Would it have made a big, big difference? I don't know. I'm not willing to say a total difference, but it would have been better than having Jackson Hayes. With that being said, he's not coming, right? The Lakers had kind of counted on that when they made the trade for him to be there for the playoffs. The fact that he wasn't there, okay, we saw what happened. So now they have to have someone in place for 2026. And so, someone like that mold would be great. I was a big fan of Jalen Duren. Reports that come out the Lakers had tried to trade for Jalen Duren, but rightfully so, Detroit had said no. And if we saw how he played in the playoffs, they were right about that. So Jalen Duren is probably going to stay there. But maybe you look at a guy like a Nick Claxton. Brooklyn, he's been kind of available, quote unquote, for a couple of years now. He, I think, can help anchor defensively the back line. I know he's definitely someone there for lobs, runs the floor really well. Not that big physical kind of presence, but a big kind of tall guy to, finish around the rim. Not my best one. Like, that wouldn't be the guy I would ideally want to go for. But, it's not horrible either. Another guy I'm trying to think that probably will work if you can get a sign and trade, that's just whether you can do it or not, would be someone like a Miles Turner. Because, he's a guy who would fit perfectly in terms of defense, shooting the three ball. I know Luka's actually better with rim rolling bigs than shooting bigs. I know, the awkward Kristaps Porzingis fit was an example of that, but he'd be someone who could, finish around the rim, that sort of thing. The center market in general is just going to be really, really weird this year. And so that's why I'm looking, and it's like, you might have to just go after the trade market and see who shakes up. You're probably going to have to pay a pretty penny for the upcoming, next available center. But if you're looking at free agency, Naz Reid has a player option. You probably can't afford him, right? Brook Lopez, good. It'll be 38, right? Clint Capella, I guess he's available, but not for great reasons. He had a horrible year in Atlanta this year. Lost his starting spot to Onyeka Okongwu, but at his best, he's a good finisher out the pick and roll, has some solid shot blocking skills, change of pace center. If you're trying to go more of the platoon route, you bring him along. You have Jackson Hayes. You bring in one more kind of not minimum, but kind of limited center that does two things really well, or at least decently well. And those three combined can form a troika of centers. I guess almost like the Lakers did when they had Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, and the times where, Anthony Davis wanted to play center. You could do something like that. Other guys, Luke Cornett, I'm good. Precious Achiuwa, kind of small, but he's mobile and switchable. Effective on defense. Steven Adams would be nice. He's getting a little bit older, but we see the impact he's making in Houston, the impact he made in the playoffs, his rebounding, his veteran savvy. The health is a concern along with the age, but that kind of guy would be nice. Kevon Looney sets great screens, crash the glass hard. I wouldn't call him above the rim guy, but he's a guy there. Mason Plumlee's too old. Andre Drummond, we did that already. Paul Reed, Thomas Bryant, and there we are. Daron Sharp. These are the free agent centers that you're looking at if you're the Lakers. So, I don't know. That's going to be really, really interesting. But the center market, the centers in general, that's a big gaping hole. That's obviously the one thing the Los Angeles Lakers need to address. Secondly, is just more bench depth. I think, Jordan Goodwin played well. There was moments for Jared Vanderbilt. But ultimately, the bench just was not helpful. Down the stretch, it was really just Gabe Vincent and Dorian Finney-Smith. And then when you brought Dorian Finney-Smith off the bench and had him starting, then it was really just Gabe Vincent bringing any production off the bench. There's a reason why, you had that much ballyhooed move by Coach Reddick about bringing basically that starting five out from halftime and letting them play the remainder of the game. On the one hand, yes, I do think there was guys, again, mentioned Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt in some moments, that could have spelled some of those starters. But if we're being really real right now, looking at that whole team, there wasn't a lot of people that I would trust to bring in to play a playoff game. The Lakers are absolutely trying to win over the exhausted starting five they had out all of the second half. And that's not great. So finding a way to figure that out is going to be important. Dalton Knecht, I think that missed trade messed him up, because he did not come back with that same fire. Obviously, the defensive concerns were already readily apparent before he was sent out to Charlotte. Once he got back from Charlotte after that whole fiasco, the shot wasn't there either. And at that point, the confidence is lost. Not saying it's his fault. It makes sense. That's a big deal. But he just didn't have it and was not playable at all in the playoffs. And that's not great. So you need to upgrade there. Gabe Vincent, I think, finally came through, looked more like Miami Gabe Vincent than anything he'd been the last year and a half with the Lakers. So that's solid, but you need more. LeBron's gonna be 41. Just come on now. Luka, great. We got his conditioning right. That's the next segment. But there, Austin Reeves, solid outside of most of the playoffs against Minnesota. You need more off the bench to spell these guys, both in the short term and the long term. I'm talking about someone who could maybe be another connective piece as far as point guard or a point forward, another guy who can like move the ball around. Obviously, more shooting. The more shooting, the better. Look out in the free agency market, see what you can grab there. Just a few guys to cobble together to make a decent 9-man rotation would be what I'm looking at from the Lakers as well. And then lastly, I mean, this is just off-season conditioning. JJ Redick brought it up. The front office brought it up. We saw it with our own eyes, but a lot of guys, well, really just Luka Doncic, but others looked gassed down the end of games, right? And LeBron, that makes sense. The guy's had 22 years of NBA mileage on his body. That's fair. Some other guys, not so much. So we really need whatever they need to do to kind of like prioritize health, how to get these guys back, playing many minutes, being durable in that way. That's going to be big as well. So you're looking at the center depth, you're looking at just reliable overall team depth, and then ultimately getting back to health, getting better conditioned to be able to withstand the entire, playoff gauntlet that you want the Lakers to go to. This Lakers team now that's Luka Doncic and can contend for the future, right? But you still got to convince him to stay, right? Like, you still want him to know the Lakers is where he wants to be for the remainder of his prime. And that's a good 7 years, at least. That's by building the team properly, and that's also by taking care of him so he's able to withstand that. But collectively, you have these clear weaknesses. I think the front office has the work cut out for them, but it's not a mystery as to what to do. It's right there in front of them. Just got to make it happen. So we'll see what they do. We'll stay tuned on that. Definitely make sure to follow me on social media at Corban NBA. That is CORBAN NBA. Make sure to check out the Los Angeles Lakers Network. If you already are, thank you. If you're just checking it out, welcome. Stay tuned. A lot of great stuff coming at you for sure. But yeah, that's going to do it here for this quick video. I want to thank y'all again, taking the time to rock with me. I'm Frosty. Y'all stay frosty, and I'll talk to y'all real soon.